Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So the NHL trade deadline is now in the rear view mirror, and we are like over 3/4 of the way through the NHL season. A lot of teams have played between 61 and like 64 games at this point, and I thought because of that, it'd be fitting to give out my updated NHL awards ballots. This is going to be the last update until the final when the regular season is all done. So yeah, we're going to go through the 7 main awards. You can probably guess which ones they are, and we're going to say right now, who I would pick to win it. Not who I'm predicting to win it by the end of the season. You're going to hear a lot of, oh, this guy's missed some games if he continues. He's in second or third right now. By the end of the season, I think he'll catch up to these guys. This is right now if the season ended tomorrow. Got it? We're going through it, and we're going to start with the award that was definitely changed the most by recent events, by the trade deadline. Guess which award that is? Pretty self-explanatory. It's the GM of the year. It's the Jim Gregory Award because a lot of these guys did not sleep the last week or so because of the NHL trade deadline, and as a result, some of them have fluctuated up and down. At first, it's still Chris Patrick. When looking at what this guy did this summer, he was technically the assistant general manager, but he's going to get the credit because McClellan got promoted to president. But yeah, what he did this summer was by far the most impressive in terms of flipping a roster and the direct impacts that we've seen within the standings. They're first in the Eastern Conference. Logan Thompson for 2 second-round picks. Jacob Chikrin's been very good. Pierre-Luc Dubois, ideal second-line two-way center. Mangiapane maybe is the one trade that you don't exactly love, but still only give up a second-round pick, and he's been a solid player for them, as well as trading a second-round pick getting a second-round pick to dump Beck Malestein, who's yet again been a fourth liner like we expect in Buffalo, as well as killing the 2024 draft. Didn't do much at the deadline, but yeah, I just think when you look at how he overturned this roster, that team last year had no business making the playoffs, and now they're the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Next up in second, I have Julien Brisebois, and I think he was second the last time I did this as well, and he definitely stays second after what he did at the deadline. He's kind of the perfect blend of what he did at the deadline as well as in the offseason. In the offseason, made big changes in terms of telling Stamkos, his longtime captain, to hit the road. I'm instead going to bring in Jake Gensel for only $1 million more. Traded for McDonough, which was a little bit confusing at the time, but then he ships out Sergachev, so McDonough comes in to be that number 2 behind Hedman, a better fit, and he picks up J.J. Mosier, Connor Geekie, that might not have a big impact this year, but down the line, as well as a second-round pick. I think he might have flipped that pick in the Yanni Gord in Bjorkstrand trade to get himself forward depth. Tampa, the prior 2 years, still a very good team, still superstar talent, but didn't have that overall depth. Now, as a result of what Julien Brisebois has done the last 9 months or so, they're yet again a top-tier contender. Chris McFarland filled every single hole on his team. Yes, he was in part to blame for some of those holes for running out Georgiev the last couple of years, but trades only a second-round pick to upgrade from Georgiev to Blackwood. Blackwood's been great for the team. Got criticized a shit ton for the Rantanen trade. Not saying it's some kind of fleece, but Natchez has been very good while making only $6.5 million this season. In next, and picked up a second, as well as Jack Drury, who's a decent depth piece. Brock Nelson deal, gave up a decent amount as well, but they had such a clear pressing need for that second-line center because Casey Middlestat kind of flopped. And speaking of Casey Middlestat, they get more of a third-line defensive guy in Charlie Coyle. It's a better fit for the team. They bring in Ryan Lindgren. Again, I don't love all of his deals, but in terms of improving the team this season, especially in season, he has done a full 180 with this team to where now they are similar to Tampa Bay. Now they have the depth to go out and contend for a Stanley Cup. Brad Treliving, offseason was very solid. Brought in Anthony Stolarz for peanuts, a 2-year deal at $2.5 million. He's been one of the best per-game goalies, arguably like top 3 in the NHL, as well as re-signing Joseph Woll on a 3-year deal at $3.66. Brought in OEL and Tanev. Those deals might suck down the line because there's so much term, but we're speaking about right now, and they are massive upgrades, as well as at the deadline, bringing in Carlo and Lawton, who aren't just rentals for this season, although this season also matters, also have another year of term, and they got retention on that. Very good job by Brad Treliving. And then lastly, we got another Atlantic general manager, Bill Zito. In the offseason, wasn't really able to add because of salary cap restraints, but re-signed Reinhart on what is now one of the best deals in the NHL, 8 years, $8.6 million, and then went crazy. He also extended Verhaeghe on like a 7-year deal at around $7 million. And then he went crazy at the deadline. Seth Jones brought in a guy that could potentially replace Aaron Ekblad for cheaper and less term, as well as Brad Marchand, great buy low candidate. You give up a conditional second. If it turns into a first, it means that you made the Eastern Conference Finals. So very good job by Bill Zito. Jim Nill, you could argue he should be here as well. I still don't love some of his offseason moves in terms of bringing Dumba and Labushkin at like $3-ish million cap hits with term, and that might be the end all. That might be the end of Dallas in terms of they're just so weak on the right side. Rantanen deal I like a lot. Mikael Granlund rental deal I like a lot, but Dallas was already a contender, and it's not like they improved a sizable amount, but paid a decent amount in Stan Coven and 2 first-round picks. But you could throw him at 5th, and I definitely understand where you're coming from. Next up, the Norris Trophy. And yes, I have Zach Werenski winning right now. 20 goals, 46 assists, 66 points in 61 games. He's playing 26.58 a night. Like, that is crazy. In his last 3 games, he's playing 29.33 a night. He is munching on minutes and being very effective in those minutes. Obviously, offensively, he's been the main play driver for the Columbus Blue Jackets as a defenseman, their leading scorer by a decent amount. He's been awesome. He has been awesome for this team. And even defensively, his defensive metrics put him at like the 45th percentile. Not killing it, but again, he's on Columbus and not the most talented team. So the fact that he's solid defensively and has been one of the best top 2 offensive defensemen, top 3 offensive defensemen in the NHL this season, to be putting up 85 to 90 point pace on this Columbus Blue Jackets team. He's my guy right now. Makar, though, after a 6-point night against the San Jose Sharks, I can definitely understand why you would have him as yours. It's definitely a 1A, 1B. We'll get to Quinn Hughes shortly, but you probably know what my explanation is. Yeah, Makar, 75 points in 64 games, has 24 goals right now, probably going to hit the 30-goal mark, which is crazy. You can argue his numbers without Nathan MacKinnon fall off a decent amount, but also McKinnon's numbers without Makar fall off a decent amount. This is definitely going to be a great race. I think Kel Makar is going to win it because of name recognition, but in my opinion, I think just what Zach Werenski has done, he's been on par with them at an advanced stats level, as well as just the narrative, like Columbus. Again, personally for me, it's Zach Werenski right now. Quinn Hughes has been the best defenseman in the NHL on a per-game basis, but he's missed 12 out of 60 games. So he's missed 20% of his games, and Zach Werenski and Makar have been 99th percentile defensemen. Quinn Hughes has been the 100th percentile. So yeah, that's just my personal opinion. He has 63 points. No, he has, what does he have? Yeah, he has 60 points in 50 games right now. If he was healthy, yeah, he'd be my pick. But again, just missing 20% of the season is just far too much, and he's out right now. So yeah, he should be a finalist right now. That's how good he's been. He's missed 12 games, and he's still a finalist pretty clearly. But I got to go with those top 2 guys that have been healthy and have also been freaking awesome. Josh Morrissey, just another very good season by him on the best team in the Western Conference. 51 points in 63 games. Him and DeMello have been very strong defensively. Victor Hedman, 50 points in 60 games on a very good Tampa Bay team. You could flip-flop them, but I think those 2 are probably the next 2 ups. I'm sure someone will make an argument for someone at 4th or 5th, but that's where I stand right now. The Jack Adams, I go with Dean Evason first. It, again, is 1A, 1B. I think it's going to come down to whether Dean Evason in Columbus makes the playoffs. Spencer Carberry is going to win this award. I'm saying in terms of who I would have to win it, it's 1A, 1B. I know people are going to be in droves for Carberry because Carberry obviously did massively exceed expectations, but I think he's more of a blend of management and coaching. We'll get to that. But Dean Evason, they had a 65-point over-under before the season. Second worst in the entire NHL, only to San Jose. Chicago was at like 73, and right now they're in a playoff spot. By the time you're watching this, they might not be because they're playing the Rangers today. But yeah, when looking at this team, after what they went through with the Johnny Gaudreau death, Patrick Laine wanting out and eventually getting traded, they could have just quit on the season, and I wouldn't blame them based on what they were dealing with. But that has not been the case, and it hasn't been the case even with them dealing with insane injuries. Their captain has played 6 games. He's only recently returned to the lineup. Chinnikov has only played 23 games. Monahan has played 41. Johnson has played 48. Voronkov has played 43. Played, not missed. So when looking at it, they've dealt with a decent amount of injuries. They don't have that much talent. They don't have that good of goaltending from Elvis Merzlikins. Again, not saying Spencer Carberry isn't doing a great job because Logan Thompson is balling out. But like, his coaching has been so instrumental to rallying this group together, and as a result, I have him in first right now. If they continue to slip and they miss the playoffs, I'm going to go with Scarberry. I almost just said Scarberry. Spencer Carberry, like Scarlett Johansson, ScarJo. But Spencer Carberry's been great. And I'm not going to act like Washington's some kind of fraud, fugazi. They have been awesome. Spencer Carberry last year should have got more Adams votes. I think I had him within my top 5 by carrying that team. Last year, it was Carberry's coaching that got them into the playoffs. This year, I think it is more of a blend with him and Chris Patrick. But yeah, Carberry's been great. Like every single player on Washington is having a career year. Ovechkin's having a late stage career year. But yeah, they've been awesome. Scott Arniel also great job. Winnipeg was a 110-point team last year as well, so they're just kind of maintaining the status quo, and Connor Hellebuck's fantastic. Ryan Huska, I didn't expect Calgary to be this good. I don't think that he's some amazing coach, but in terms of over-exceeding expectations, he's been great. Todd McClellan, Detroit has slowed down. They lost their last 5 games, but they're still 17-10-2 with McClellan behind the bench. The only reason they're somewhat in a playoff race is because of Todd McClellan, and if he makes the playoffs, he has a strong argument to be a finalist. Right now, I think there's a clear top 2. Scott Arniel is kind of penciled into 3rd, and then 4th through 5th, you can kind of make arguments for different guys. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about my top 5? I'm sure it's going to be controversial. Next up, we got the Vezina. Connor Hellebuck is going away at this point because Logan Thompson has slowed down a decent amount. 927, 33 goals saved above expected, at least on Money Puck. He's been great. He had a little bit of a lull in like mid-December to mid-January, but in his last 16 games, he's 13-2-1 with a 928. So he's back on track. He's back to being Connor Hellebuck, as well as Andrei Vasilevsky really surging of late. He has a 920 save percentage right now, playing 49 out of Tampa's 62 games. So he's been a workhorse. We weren't sure what he was going to look like after that back injury. Logan Thompson, still insane. 27 wins, 4 losses, 5 overtime and shootout losses. In his last 8 games, he does have an 882, which is a little bit concerning. Still, the underlying numbers are insane at 917 save percentage. The underlying numbers are better than the save percentage suggests. He's been awesome. Joey Decord, he has a 911 save percentage on just like one of the worst teams in the entire NHL, and his underlying numbers place him firmly between like the 3rd through 6th range right now. And then I want to show love to Lucas Dostal, 910 right now on the Anaheim Ducks. Again, their defense is not very good. It's been their goalie tandem that has really carried them. He has 21 goals saved above expected, according to Money Puck, which puts him on a level with like Vasilevsky. So yeah, that's where I stand right now with the Vezina race. The most boring winner race. There's a decent race for who's going to finish 2nd right now between Vasilevsky and Thompson, but I think we know our top 3. 4th through 5th, you can make arguments for a bunch of guys, and I would definitely hear you out. The Selke, I'm not going to break down like the expected goals against numbers, the goals against per 60. I have Sam Reinhart right now. I think he's been on the same level as Barkov, and as we're going to talk about a lot in this, the injuries, Barkov did miss 10 games early on in the season. Barkov's going to win it because he's the center, and voters don't give a shit about injuries as much as I do. But I think it should be Reinhart right now. Sorelli, as usual, has been awesome. I got PLD 4th. He's been great defensively, unexpectedly, not completely unexpectedly, but he's finally living up to his potential as that 6'3" big dude, 2-way center. And then Connor Garland has been a very underrated defensive player for the Vancouver Canucks this season. One of the rare bright spots on Vancouver right now. Next up, we got the Calder Trophy. It's such a close race, man. It's like a 3-way tie for first right now, and Michkov is surging right now. Let's dive into all of these guys' cases. I got Dustin Wolf in first. That might be controversial. He's not getting nearly enough. He's plus 2,100 right now to win it. It is insane just because he plays in Calgary. This man is single-handedly carrying them to the playoffs, and I'm not saying you have to be in the playoffs to win the Calder. That's a stupid argument. But yeah, 38 games. He has a 915. His underlying numbers place him. You could put him 4th or 5th for the Vezina, and I would get what you're saying, considering how good he's been, and especially with his increased workload of late to start the season. He would be like my clear pick if he had 45 games at this rate. But he's been ramping it up in terms of starting, like to start the season, first 25 to 30 games. Him and Dan Vladar, who's garbage, were like splitting starts. He's been playing a shit ton down the stretch to where he's going to set it. I said like months ago, he needs to get to like 50 games to be seriously in the Calder discussion. He's on pace for that. Calgary has around like 20 games left. He's at 38. He's probably going to get to 50, maybe even 52, 53 if they really work him. And if he has a 915, that is so impressive. He might end up being top 5 in my Vezina ballot behind a shit defense with Calgary. So yeah, he's been very impressive, and he's made Ryan Huska look very good. Huska's a good coach though, but at least this season. Lane Hudson, number 2. When looking at Hudson, 49 points in 63 games since he's gotten that bump of ice time, bump to the top power play. He's been one of the best offensive defensemen in the entire NHL, basically cooking at a point per game. It's been very impressive. The defense, there's a long way to go, but you take the offense when you're as talented as Lane Hudson, already probably a top 15 offensive defenseman in the entire NHL. Celebrini, injuries. When looking at it, he missed 12 games. He got hurt in the first game, and then he missed 12 games on a per-game basis, similarly to a Quinn Hughes. He is the best guy right now. 20 goals, 28 assists, 48 points, 53 games. That is 31 goal, 43 assists, 74-point pace across an 82-game season. If he keeps this up, I think that he's going to be my pick. If he plays the next, I think they have 17 or 18 games remaining, he's probably going to be my pick just because he has been the best guy on a per-game basis. But again, he's missed 12 out of 64 or 65 games. That has to matter. He's been playing a shit ton for the San Jose Sharks, like 20 minutes a night. So yeah, Celebrini should be the favorite right now because he has been the best per-game guy. Again, it's like you could argue Lane Hudson, you can Celebrini, and I'm not going to disagree with you. There's arguments for this top 3, and Matvei Michkov might have an argument relatively soon. When looking at him, you can break his season into 3 different chunks. The first 27 games, 11 goals, 16 assists, 27 points, 27 games. At that point, I think he was the favorite to win the Calder. Then his next 26 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points in 27 games. He fell off the face of the earth. He was kind of a shrieky player. His last 9 games since February 6th, 9 games played, 6 goals, 13 assists, or 6 goals, not 6 goals, 13 assists, that'd be insane. 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points. 13 points in his last 9 games, and now he's rightfully so, somewhat in the mix. He has 47 points in 62 games on the season. Still 4th right now, but again, if he continues to go at this rate, he will be in conversations because if he continues to go, he's not going to go exactly at this rate, but if he continues to be point per game, he'll finish at around 67 points on the season. And then I went Cutter Gauthier in 5th. He's been better of late. I think he has like 5 points in his last 5 games, but definitely not in contention like I thought he'd be. Lastly, we got the Hart Trophy. I'm going with Connor Hellebuyck. I flip-flopped between him and Leon Draisaitl the last couple of videos. Hellebuyck, as I mentioned before with the Vezina, has really gotten back on track to a .928, leading the pack in goals saved above expected by a country mile. His record is insane. He's my pick right now. Draisaitl has been great as well. 46 goals, 49 assists, 95 points in 63 games right now. It's definitely a 1A, 1B with this ballot. People are going to scream at me, Draisaitl. I get where you're coming from. Edmonton has been going through a bit of a rough patch. They have kind of got back on track, especially after that win against Dallas, but they were 3-6 in their last 9. Not blaming Draisaitl for that, but that's kind of why I flip-flopped. Draisaitl, a beast. Might end up with 58 goals, 65 assists or something like that at this point. It's going to be a toss-up. The toss-up probably will go to the forward, though, just because voters tend to be more inclined towards the forwards. And Winnipeg versus Edmonton, not saying Edmonton's a massive market, but they get a lot more attention. McKinnon 3rd, especially after his 5-point game against the San Jose Sharks. I think he kind of solidified himself in that 3rd-place spot. Right now he has 100 points. Big numbers. 27 goals is a little bit underwhelming, and why he's not in that top 2 discussion right now. Him and Makar have been dynamite, and even since Rantanen got traded, he has not really skipped a beat. I got Werenski 4th. Again, when you talk about value to a team, Zach Werenski definitely deserves to be top 5, leading the Columbus Blue Jackets in points right now, playing 26, 50 a night. It's crazy what he is doing right now. And then Nikita Kucherov, he's roughly on par with like a Nathan MacKinnon in terms of points per game, slightly less, just has played 4 less games than Nathan MacKinnon. He's playing 21-43 as a forward, and he slots in at my number 5 spot. Other guys you can make arguments for, I'm trying to think. David Pastrnak really came on towards the end, but now that Boston is sold, they're not going to be making the playoffs. I'm definitely forgetting people. Quinn Hughes, again, if he stayed healthy, he probably would have been on this, and Vancouver Canucks were in a playoff spot. Is there anybody else? I don't think so, right? This is pretty straightforward. Florida doesn't really have anybody. Toronto's Mitch Marner, I guess you maybe could make an argument, but I'm taking Kucherov. This is it. We'll go through them one more time. Gregory, Chrissy P. in his first year wins it. Norris, Zach Werenski right now for me, but I understand if you have Makar. Adams, it's a toss-up in my opinion, but Carberry's going to win it from the voters for sure. Vezina, it's all but locked up. Interesting race for second, though. Selke, it's going to go to Barkov, but I think Reinhart kind of deserves it. Then we got the Calder 3-way tie right now, and Matvei Michkov is in the rearview mirror, chase coming up to them, behind them, as well as for the Hart, Connor Hellebuck, Draisaitl, 1A, 1B. McKinnon, if he continues to score, has 5-point nights like he did against San Jose Sharks, maybe he can creep up. He's going to win the Art Ross, most likely. Werenski at 4th, well-deserving. And Kucherov at 5th. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? Who would you move up? Who would you move down? I'll be seeing the next one. Peace.